The House will come to order. Prayer by the Chaplain.
God of love and wisdom, we give you thanks for this day, for this land, for the people of Minnesota and their rich diversity, for the women and men who have been called and gathered here in order to govern and guide our state and care for all people who live here. We give you thanks for our history, both the good and the bad that has been done to our neighbor. And we ask that you help us be inspired to learn from our mistakes, to confess, to forgive, and to work for justice, equality, and peace so that all might live lives that are valued and respected. Today, even as our grass continues to be brown and our trees are dormant, let us rejoice in the wonders of our creation, recognizing the many resources that our land provides for food, nourishment, and health. We remember today all the children, women, and men who are currently without stable housing or are homeless, and we ask for you to be with them and keep us mindful of all people who are in need. Where there is hunger, provide food. Where there is conflict, bring peace. Where there is pain, bring healing. Where there is cold, provide warmth. Help us as your people to keep our eyes and ears open to the needs of others and open our hearts to act with compassion. Give us humble hearts so that we might listen earnestly to one another, acknowledging that we've been called to lead, to work with people of different backgrounds and perspectives, and give us a willingness to compromise with each other so that we might work for the good of our entire community and world. We pray all this in your holy name. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Joanna Mitchell from Shepherd of the Hills Lutheran Church, Edina, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 91st Session, 2019, third day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, January 14th, 2019.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 80 through 206.
First reading, House Files 80 through 206. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements.
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker.
The member from Morrison, Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just wondering if, and I caught Chair Carlson before, I wonder if he would yield for a question or two.
The member from Hennepin will yield. Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just for the body, we've had a couple of questions on divisions and how bills might move amongst those divisions in committee. And I was just looking for clarification for the body. Is it possible or is it plausible that a bill might be recalled from a division if it has not yet been voted on by that division?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Kresha, that is a possibility, just like if a bill might possibly be re-referred here on the House floor. Usually there's a discussion in the past between the two chairs, and sometimes there's an agreement that a bill might be moved from one committee to another. So within Ways and Means, that's possible. Sometimes you can have a bill that's referred to Ways and Means, and it might have an article in the bill that deals with education and also an article that deals with Health and Human Services. And so it sometimes is a question between the two chairs as to who might hear the bill first. And in that case, we might move it, but it would be a movement by memo that would be reflected both in the committee and to the body, as well as posted on the House website.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Chair Carlson. And so, if you'll yield for one more, it's plausible, and I understand on the rules in talking to the Chief Clerk. So, I guess one question is there any scenario, or if what I heard you say is there's no scenario where you would move a bill unilaterally without agreement from maybe the bill author and the chairs involved? Would that be a fair statement?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Kresha, just like it is here on the House floor, and we will still have those kinds of motions between some of the policy committees, but there are times when a motion is made to re-refer a bill from one committee to another, and usually there's a conversation. You know, as members get up, they will say that they've talked to both committee chairs and they agree on the re-referral, and that's how I would typically operate. If I had a re-referral within Ways and Means, I would talk to the relevant chairs, and there probably most of the time in situations like that there would be agreement.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam
Speaker,
Chair.
parliamentary inquiry.
State your parliamentary inquiry.
Madam Speaker, under the rules of the House related to order of business and announcements, I do have your memorandum of January 8th instructing us that matter has to be, or a question has to be before the House in order to engage in debate, and under announcements there is no question before the House. I understand that Representative Kresha has asked two questions of Representative Carlson related to the rules of the House, which would more properly fall under a debate about the rules. And I'm not going to ask you, I'm not raising a point of order to issue a ruling, but I do wonder if you could remind the body what the rule is regarding discussion of points about that are substantive, that relate to the business of the House under announcements.
Under announcements, it would not be custom and usage of the House to allow much in the way of a colloquy. We do, however, allow some latitude for questions between the minority leader and the majority leader. Typically, we hear more of those at the end of session when the situation is fluid. But under announcements, I've allowed latitude because I understand this is a change in how the committees were functioning under the prior biennium. But it's small amount of latitude, and we're getting to the end of the latitude. Representative Kresha, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I wasn't going to go down this path, actually. I was just going to ask questions about the division. But this brings up the thought of what are the operational guidelines that we operate under? I believe there's 6 of them. And could you remind the body what those are?
Representative Kresha, if you're talking about authority that governs the policies and procedures on the Minnesota House floor, it would be the Constitution, it would be statutes, then it would be rules, then it would be custom and usage, and then it would be Masons. Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So custom and usage is above Masons, and I believe in the memorandum we established this precedent, or you put it that it would be removing the latitude or limiting the latitude on announcement under Masons. So as I understand it, custom and usage would be higher than that as a precedent. So point of order?
State your point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So under custom and usage, if I understand it correctly, we've had it in the past where members have been able to have these. I did not know that it was just minority leader to majority leader or back and forth. Is that the new custom and usage that we're trying to establish?
Representative Kresha, Speaker Vanasek, Speaker Svigum, Speaker Long, and Speaker Carruthers all issued the same directive in their decorum memos at the start of the session, or in some cases midpoint through the session. And it is the custom and usage of the House that debate is not proper under announcements. Most speakers have allowed latitude for some discussion about the proceeding of the business of the House to a limited extent, and all speakers have limited that latitude. Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to my point, I would just bring this up. I really would have finished this with one more question, but now that we're into what's going to be allowed with latitude, it raises the question to me of what we're allowed to do, how we are going to ask our questions. So when would those come up and what it's going to look like? I suddenly feel like, something that's been taken away from us. I mean, you, Madam Speaker, all due respect, but under Speaker Dowd, I remember lots of questions coming back and forth, and I remember the custom and usage to ask member questions. In the majority party, you have 75 members. You can do whatever you want. This is all we have is debate. Are we going to lose that through thin latitude?
Did you raise a point of order, Representative Kresha?
I do have a point of order.
State your point of order.
My point of order is that I should be allowed to finish my line of questioning under custom and usage.
Representative Kresha, it is the custom and usage of the House that when you raise a point of order, you have to cite some authority to have a point of order to raise. But I will, as I indicated previously, allow a little bit more latitude if you want to wrap up your questioning of Representative Carlson on how bills move in division under the new arrangement. Representative Kresha, you have the floor.
And just so we're clear, Madam Speaker, so I'm back. I can finish my last question? Okay, so we're going to move. I'll withdraw the point of order. Representative Carlson, if you'll yield for one more question.
He will. Representative Kresha.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, because I'm trying to understand bills, you would not see a scenario where, because I'm on Ways and Means as well, where a bill could be withdrawn or recalled from division without a vote, that you wouldn't have the conversation. So in other words, as you mentioned in the House floor, we normally have the debate. We can talk about that. I want to make sure that the public is aware a scenario wouldn't exist where it would just happen in Ways and Means and not make it to the floor for a re-referral debate. And that would be my final question, Madam Speaker.
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, Representative Kresha, like I said earlier, if there was to be a re-referral, I would talk to the two chairs. The one thing that I didn't mention that would probably be a part of the conversation would be the author of the bill, to find out why the two chairs or one chair wanted to move it from one committee to the other, or why the author wanted it to go to a different committee. We all see that kind of action out here on the floor. And I would point out that this is the very same process. You know, I've to some degree become a bit of the House historian because I've been here for a while. When I was first elected, we had the Appropriations Committee. It had 4 divisions. A bill was referred to the Chair of Appropriations from the Speaker. The Chair of Appropriations referred the bills to one of the 4 divisions that were part of the Appropriations Committee. The one difference and why we are much more transparent is that there's been a lot of discussion about the memo. Well, when we had the Appropriations Committee and we did that, it was just understood that a bill would go to Education, Health and Human Services, State Government, Finance, to name 3 of the 4 divisions. The other one, I think, was Transportation, Semi-States. And now it's much more transparent, because any action that I take on the movement of a bill is posted on the website. Copies of that movement are given to members of the Ways and Means Committee, the ranking minority member. And we did have a request from another member. I'm not sure what his status is. Representative Druskowski wanted to be included in the circle of being informed, and we said yes, we'll add him to the list. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible, and we're more transparent than it was historically. When I chaired the Finance Committee for 4 years, we used this very system. And it worked very well, and I don't recall that there were any problems or complaints at that time. What I generally did was I talked to the authors. I could cite one example where I had 2 authors that wanted to, or 2 chairs that wanted to hear the bill right away. They both thought it was their jurisdiction, and I talked to both of them, and we worked out an agreement between the 2 chairs, and the system was set up where they both had an opportunity to hear the bill. So it's a very transparent system, and one I think that will work very well as we move forward.
Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that, Representative Carlson. And I would just add that I have no doubt that this will be done in all of the best ways. I just want to make sure it's a new process. It's important that what process is in the body knows how things move, because those bills are important to the bills of our constituents. And Madam Chair, I appreciate you giving a little latitude, because it's early in the session. And if we know we have the latitude and we can go back to our districts and talk about this and know the process, I think it makes this work much better. So nothing other than clarification, and thank you, Representative Carlson.
Announcements. The member from Ramsey, Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have an announcement, 2, in fact. 1, members, please remember that we have the Welcome Back to St. Paul legislative reception on Tuesday from 5 to 7:30 at the Children's Museum. There will be all kinds of good stuff for you there. So please join us, members of the St. Paul delegation, who will be your hosts. And second, if I may, Madam Speaker, we have 1 week from Friday, the Law School for Legislators. For those of you who are attorneys, it's 6.5 CLE credits. But we really would encourage you to stop by and learn. There's going to be a lot of lawyers testifying before your committees, but Law School for Legislators helps you learn how to apply the law as legislators, and it's 1 week from Friday from 8:30 to 4:30 at Mitchell-Hamlin School of Law.
Announcements. The member from Isanti, Representative Dowd.
Would Representative Lesh yield for a question?
He will. Representative Dowd.
If you could repeat, Representative Lesh, thank you, Madam Speaker. When is that Welcome Back to St. Paul party? Because that's usually a pretty good time. And I also want to know, are you personally involved with planning it? Because that might make people more likely to go to it. Because you're a pretty fun guy. Did you plan this thing, this St. Paul party?
Representative Lesh.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Dowd. I guess I wouldn't answer a question with a question, but what do you mean by fun? Yes, I personally planned most details of this, so it's going to be a great time, and I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you. Oh, when is it? It's Tuesday, 5 to 7:30. It's this Tuesday, 5 to 7:30 down at the Children's Museum. Thank you.
Announcements. The member from Isanti, Representative Johnson.
Speaker Hortman, as you know, the Public Safety Committee has been relegated to the basement hearing room where their hearings are unable to be televised. I brought this up to the committee on Tuesday, and the public safety is one of the most watched hearings on TV. And we've been televised nearly every hearing over the years. Chair Mariani said in committee today that he talked with you about this, and I want to thank you for doing so. I want to thank him for doing so. I also want to appeal to you on behalf of Minnesota, who want to watch the Public Safety Committee hearings on TV to reassign the committee to a hearing room where the proceedings are televised so the transparency that you talked about is met in the Public Safety Committee.
Announcements. The member from Hennepin, Representative Winkler.
Turn this on. Madam Speaker, their announcement is there will be a bipartisan training for leaders, both sides, well, I don't know, all three sides, from the chief clerk regarding the House rules, the decorum memo, and how to operate on the House floor under the existing rules and under the decorum memo that was issued on the first day of session. So the chief clerk and his staff will be providing basically the same kind of training that is provided to the speaker and the majority leader before session. And so I hope leaders on both sides will be able to participate in that. To be determined, time and place.
Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11:30 a.m. Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourned today, it adjourn until Tuesday, January 22nd at 11:30 a.m. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House be now adjourned.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House is adjourned.